Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation Quality Tenant Engagement Committee meeting on Monday, February 10th. I'd like to welcome committee members, board staff, and our online attendees to our first TSHC Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee for 2025. Feels like we're well into the year. We're happy that we're being live streamed, and we hope that we have lots of people online that are joining us, and we thank you for joining us today. I'd like to particularly acknowledge that February is Black History Month, and our CEO will be talking a little bit more about what we've been doing as an organization to acknowledge Black History Month. We have a full agenda today. And we have two deputations that we will get to, reminding people that when they're doing a deputation, they need to be actually focused on the agenda item that is being presented and not on individual tenant matters. There's lots of other avenues for addressing that. And that as we get more deputations, we are going to actually be making sure that we time those, that people can speak for no longer, that they don't have to speak up to 5 minutes, but no longer than 5 minutes. So we will be actually using a clock today. And so without further ado, I'm going to start with our land acknowledgement. Toronto Seniors Housing acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. We also would like to do the African ancestral acknowledgement. Toronto Seniors Housing acknowledges all treaty people, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. We'll now proceed to item 3, which is the approval of the public meeting agenda, hoping that everyone had a chance to take a look at the agenda and the minutes. And I want to just check to see if there's any additions to the agenda or amendments to the agenda. Okay, hearing none. May I have a QTE committee member move that the February 10th, 2025 QTE committee public meeting agenda be approved as presented?
So moved.
Thanks, Jim. And a seconder? And I'm just looking because I can't see everybody. Just
happy to second, Linda.
thanks, Fareed. And all in favor? Terrific. And that's moved. Be it resolved that the February 10th, 2025 public meeting agenda as presented to QTA committee is approved. We'll now proceed to item 4, which is our conflict of interest. May I ask if anyone of our members have a conflict of interest? Okay, I don't hear of any, so hearing none, we'll move on to item 5, approval of the QTEC public session minutes and minutes of November 18th, which feels like a lifetime away. Hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at those minutes, and just asking if there's any amendments or changes to those, to the public session minutes of November 18th. Okay, hearing none. May I have a member move that the November 18th, 2024 public session minutes be approved as presented? And Jim, I'm going to lean heavily on you because I think that you're our QTEC member, and I think Fareed actually is as well. So could I ask you to move?
Yes, I will. I so moved.
Thank you. And seconded?
I'm so moved.
I'm moved too, but thank you very much. All in favor? Great. Thank you very much. I do think that we just actually have Jim. I think we don't have the counselor on yet. I haven't. Oh, no, there's Counselor Crisanti. Nice to see you. Sorry, my screen is not. I'll be reaching out to you as well.
No
We'll
worries.
now,
Thank you.
thank you and welcome. We will proceed to item 6, which is our action review. And I will ask people to take a moment to take a look at those. and to see whether there's any questions with regards to the action list. With this, I'd like to note that we had two items that came, and I think Lawrence is on the call, that came to our committee, that was requested to come to our committee. Staff to consult with TCHC on environmental renewal and plan and bring forward an overview of the revitalization plans in the 2024 budget, including net new potential housing for seniors. We're going to refer these items to the board of directors, since we haven't had this committee has not actually had an opportunity to look at that, and we think that they should go to the board. With that, does anyone have any other items that they have questions or clarifications on for the action item list? And I'd like to thank people. The actions get done because people actually follow up on those items. So thank you very much for following up on them. And I think that there are some items on today's agenda which have come from action items that we'll be also chatting about as well. So hearing none, I'm going to move to item 7, which is our CEO update. And pleased to hand it over to Tom for the CEO update.
Yes, thanks, Linda, and through the chair to the committee. Just first off, it is Black History Month, and it has begun, and we want to share some of the ways our organization will be recognizing and celebrating this important month. And our focus this year is on the theme of Black legacy and leadership, celebrating Canadian history and uplifting future generations. And just throughout this month, there's some activities, sharing a newsletter. One went out today, highlighting the valuable contributions of our staff members. They were Alexandria Patterson Richards, Ralston Nelson, and Deanna Forbes. And just it's so helpful and insightful to read kind of their experiences. Also hosting lunch and learning sessions. One will be from an individual with CABR, confronting anti-Black racism, who will be speaking at lunch and learn. We have Suzette Daly, and it's entitled Lucy and Thornton Blackburn, and it's about a true life experiences of freedom seekers who escaped enslavement in Kentucky and later founded Toronto's first taxi company. And then also we're going to have Hamlin Grange. He is the founder and principal consultant at Diversity Pro, and he's going to, one of his real areas of expertise is the level of intercultural competence of individuals and organizations. He was recently appointed to the Order of Canada, and so he's going to be with us for one of our lunch and learns. Also, just fresh off of Friday in our Lunar New Year visits, Mayor Chow recently completed her annual Lunar New Year visits to our TSHC buildings. And over 2 days, half Friday, she visited 9 buildings. And I would have to say these were really a tremendous success. There were some events where there was an entertainment, and there was some singing. And also the mayor is just very engaging and speaking to the tenants. So wanting to thank all of the staff who stepped in to make these visits run so smoothly. And it was a big ask, moving a lot of many parts, especially wanting to thank Arlene, Daryl, and Marie, the 3 staff, for their excellent planning and coordination. Also, just a quick update around the director recruitment for Arlene's replacement. That is going well, finishing the second rounds of interviews. So just wanting to keep the committee up to date on that. And just finally, around the Economic Community Development and Committee report, if you recall, that is where we presented a report to that committee in October of 2024. Following from that, there was a motion for the divisions to work with the city divisions to work with Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation to look at what potential services could be provided to our tenants. So that work has been ongoing. Arlene has been kind of representing us in that space as well. And there will be a report going to ECDC on April 8th. And so we will be providing an update at March 24th for information. And so that's my update. Thanks, Linda.
Go ahead, Fareed.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. A couple of questions. One is related, the other one is unrelated, but perhaps something that you can take under advisement. And the first one has to do with the Black History Month. Thanks for the update and thanks for the work you're doing to enhance the staff awareness of Black History Month. I was wondering, though, whether or not it would be appropriate to do something on the tenant side. And what I was thinking about is maybe a poster campaign or something, nothing elaborate, nothing expensive, but even if we were to put up, one or two posters of significant contributions made by Black people in Ontario, or even, a poster that says it's Black History Month, I think it might help deal with the tenant awareness side. So that's one
Thank
suggestion
you.
on Black History Month. The second one has to do with which is unrelated, but all this challenge and discussions that we've had over the last several weeks around the imposition of tariffs on Ontario and Canada. And I know that the city at the last council meeting, and Council Constante can correct me if I'm wrong, council did sort of ask the city manager to come up with a plan or a strategy to deal with a potential city response. I know that we don't have complete control over procurement deliberations. It's done by the Toronto Community Housing Corporation. But I was wondering whether or not, we're working with the TSHC or the city to try and play whatever part we can, albeit small, to make a difference and to send a message.
Thanks, Fareed, for those thoughtful comments, and I'll let Tom respond.
Yes, great. Thanks. Through the chair to Fareed. Yes, Fareed. We actually short. I mean, after that kind of first tariff trauma, we did contact the city and did ask them about really wanting to get kind of what their position would be, so that we could kind of follow and make sure that we are very close. Would be aligned with what they were saying. And so Arlene just got an email today to say that the city is still kind of finalizing their communication around the tariffs and the procurement and where they can act. So, once we have confirmation of that and their communication, then we will align to that.
Thanks.
Thank you, and thanks for the comments around some suggestions in enhancing the Black History Month and making sure that we're, that our tenants feel represented in the buildings as well. So thank you for that, and thank you for the update on the mayor's visits. And I wonder, on behalf of the committee, if there's a way to actually express our appreciation to Tom, like for somebody who is so busy, and that
Yeah.
must have been really, really special for our tenants. And we do actually know that many of our tenants and many of our buildings do actually celebrate the Lunar New Year. So I just want to send our gratitude to the mayor.
Mrs.
Arlene?
Chair, Arlene has her hand up.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, Arlene.
So through the chair, thank you. We will ensure that we send a note on behalf of the committee to the mayor's office. So thank you for that. And going back to Fareed's comment around posters for the tenants, we did have posters up in the building. We did a special feature on a tenant whose family had lived through several experiences of being a Black Canadian, and is much older tenant. I think she's almost 100 years old. So we featured that story in Senior Speak. We have a poster up about that, and we also share that information as part of our staff communications, and we'll look into other ways to expanding that, but I just wanted to respond to the comment.
That's great, Arlene. And I think maybe we get copies of that. That sounds like our inspirational story to share with the board as well. So send it our way. That would be great. Thanks, Arlene.
Will do.
Any other comments or questions? Terrific. So I think we will move on then from that report. Thank you for the update, Tom. And we're now actually going to just do a quick review of our work plan for 2025. And I believe Grant is going to talk a little bit about our work plan. And this was pre-circulated, as you can see. Today's agenda is reflective of the items for this month, and this is a dynamic process. But we will certainly entertain issues as they come up, but this is our plan for the year. Grant, do you want to comment?
Thank you, Linda. Through the chair, and good afternoon, everybody. And I'm wondering, Karen, would you be able to bring up the portion of the package that has this item, and I'll just walk the committee through the work plan. Just in terms of context, as we've done previously for each of the committees, we've developed a work plan for each of the meetings throughout the year, looking at the topics that will be coming forward. It is a work plan, so it's a guide for the year. There are sometimes changes to what ultimately topics come forward at which meetings, but this gives us an idea as to how regularly we're going to have updates on certain topics, and also an opportunity to plan for the year. And I'll just wait for it to come up on the screen. Thanks so much, Karen. So you'll see, and as Linda just noted, the first meeting, today's meeting, there is a list of our update for today, our agenda for today. It's quite a full agenda. For our next meeting in March, which is not that far from now, we'll have some similar updates on the dashboard and engagement and partnerships. You'll notice, though, two other things on there. We'll have our first report from the Community Safety Unit at the Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee, so we're looking forward to that. And we've been working with the Community Safety Unit on that report for a little bit now. And we're also going to have a follow-up from the city on the Service Model Report, or the ECDC report that was mentioned earlier in Tom's update as well. So a couple of follow-up items and important items in the next meeting as well. If you can scroll down a little bit, Karen, thank you so much. As we get into Q2, in the May meeting, we'll have some of the standard items. You'll see the first strategic directions Q1 progress update there for the year. On today's agenda, we have the Q4 update from last year. You will see the translation and interpretation policy. This is one of the key policies that's under development now, coming forward. In the July meeting, we have the standard dashboard and engagement, partnership, and communications update items, but also in that meeting, we'll have the Local Housing Corporation benchmark report. So if you recall, we had a similar report last year, which showed how TSHC is doing in light of the other local housing corporations. You can keep scrolling. Thanks so much, Karen. And then the last two meetings, so in the Q3 meeting in September, we'll have the OACH biannual report. So Melanie will join us, similar to how she is today, to provide us with the progress update at that time. We will have an item on our future strategic directions as well, in addition to some of the standard items. And then in our November meeting, we'll have the standard items, but also a rapid rehousing report. So another report on rapid rehousing, similar to how we have today. I'll take any questions on this if people have them at this time.
Thanks, Grant. Any questions? I think just a comment that what I've noted over the last 2 years is that sometimes items do come up, and that we're a resilient committee, and that as items come up, we will actually add them to the agenda, but it's good to have that plan ahead. And I think that these items do reflect our mandate, both on quality and in tenant engagement. All right, seeing no hands up, I think we will basically, do we have to have an approval on this? I think this is just for information at this point.
It's just through the chair. It's just for information.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Terrific. Okay, so we will move on to item 9. And item 9 is our operational dashboard. This is actually regularly presented, and Brad will be presenting it. We do actually have a deputation, and welcome Mr. Arnold Margulis to the meeting. And I think you are online and are able to speak to this. Just as a reminder, and I did say it at the beginning of the meeting, that we welcome deputations. We do want to focus on the items that so this is actually a focused on the operational dashboard and those items. And there's 5 minutes, and I think that Karen is going to start the clock going, and I'll ask you to speak now, Arnold, and then we will actually ask any board members if they have any questions of clarification. Mr. Margulis.
Yeah, good afternoon. Do you hear me?
We do, and hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk to such a distinguished board and committee. The thing is that unfortunately this is not my first desire to interrupt your meeting, but I have an issue which is not going to be resolved without your participation. That's what I believe. And I preliminarily discussed it with the chair of the board probably a couple of months ago. He said that that would be advisable to actually approach the board and the leadership of this corporation. So that's what I'm trying to do now. I moved into the bachelor unit at Butters and Shepherd building about a year ago. from commercial building. So obviously staying in line for quite a few years. So upon moving, I found that quite a few deficiencies in the previous renovation of the unit. So I applied, requested to fix them. The super refused, so I had to escalate it to his supervisor at the regional office. So they did some of it. Then I found that the superintendent in my prior building was actually spending days doing massage in our building. And unfortunately for me, he was doing massage in the opposite, like in the opposite unit, right opposite to my unit. So there was quite a history that I lived in previous building, being a senior member of the tenants committee and facing a lot of complaints from tenants about the theft of funds, about undue, undone repairs and, conduct of the superintendent and multiple other issues. So that I had to investigate and kind of deal with through the corporate management. So as a result, this guy realized that he may be fired at his workplace, and he just disappeared from the building. And I believe they asked the super, he has a team here who super shared the FOBs from the building and advertised the services, probably been part of the team. He asked the super to kick me out of the building. That's not less, not much, exactly this. So I believe what the super did, he drilled the holes in the ceiling slab in the above unit, paid the tenant living in that unit. This is like a woman probably from North Korea, yes, I guess so. And they had prior business relations, as I found later. In particular, he did significant upgrades in her unit with new large kitchen cabinets, double fridges, new heating devices, new thermostats, new water regulators, above and beyond standard gear that what they do during the unit renovation. So they were quite familiar with each other, and he supplied her with fumigators and hoses and the chemicals and instructions how to use them. And she started fumigating each night my unit, aiming to kick me out of the building. So I just moved in. So obviously I had no intention after 10 years in line, to move out of the building. And I'm not like a guy who is easily pressured to do such things. So, and apparently I started complaining, obviously, first to local staff. And what happened next, the super came to my unit and said that you are complaining about holes. You already made noise with, your unit repairs. You're not going to find any holes or any commission. I work here for quite a while, and I know how to do things. So they are hidden. You won't find it. So you have to get out of my building. And by the way, the lady was living here before you for 2 weeks and ran away because she also complained about smell. So, so I checked later. He was lying. It was an elderly woman who died actually in the unit, living here for many years. So basically, what happened next? The woman above and her boyfriend living in the same building in the unit 1204. They continued each night to fumigate my unit, using all kind of chemicals used around the building, to industrial cleaners, automotive service products, insecticides, which is a totally separate story. Where did the super, get these insecticides? What was the channel for unlicensed person to obtain them? So surprisingly, one evening, a woman came to my unit. She told me that apparently she is living next to that the woman next to 1010 and unit 10.
Mr. Margolis, we're just
Yeah.
running, it's the clock is just run down. I think some of your items are actually very relevant to the agenda item. Some of the very individual items that are involving other people, what I'd like to do is actually make sure that I know that our team will follow up with you on those. But do you just want to wrap up anything else that you wanted to say in the next 4 seconds? Oh, you're on mute. Do you want to unmute him, Karen?
I wanted to say that you need to introduce a rotation policy You should not allow the superintendent to fully corrupt and then control the vulnerable people in the building where 90, 95 years old people live. Rotate this stuff 5 years, each 5 years.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the summary, and thank you for coming forward. I'm wondering, I think Brad is going to speak to this, but is there any questions, or what we do after deputation? Is there any clarifying questions from any of the board members? I think with assurance that we will be following up on the items that you've actually raised in terms of the staffing and some of the issues in the building.
Just 1 second. I submitted quite a detailed document. I'm
Yes,
going to submit the addendum with links to some evidence. So I'm
Okay.
kindly asking the leadership and the board members to actually read through these documents.
Thank you, and we will make sure that the documents get sent. So thank you for joining us, and we're going to put you on mute now. I think I'm going to pass it over to Brad, who is going to walk through this. And if there's anything that you wanted to actually comment on in terms of follow up, Brad, feel free to.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to comment on, and we're just going to move to the operational dashboard for now.
Thank you.
All right, next slide, please. So this is the operational dashboard that the committee gets monthly, indicating the work of staff. I'm just going to remind the board, the committee, that due to seasonality, you're going to see some changes in it, such as the vacancy rate. You see that going up. People are less likely to accept units and come and sign a lease over the holidays. These are seasonal blips that we see all the time. The one thing is that in December, the arrears did fall again. So we're just under 1.55 million in the 1.54 range. You can also see that there's dramatic decreases in the maintenance work orders as well as the pest management. And that's that were completed through the annual unit inspection process. And those numbers are returning to where they are on monthly averages. Next slide. This is just a breakdown of the arrears, where all the arrears sit, what bucket that they sit in, whether they're with Melanie and her team at the Commissioner of Housing's office, if they've been litigated already. And again, we're down. You can see that in July, the arrears were at 1.7 million complete outstanding to the corporation, and now we're down in that 1.54 range. And I think that the one thing that we like to keep saying to people is that this is with maintaining a 1% eviction rate that we've been able to do this, which means that this is from collecting rent from tenants as opposed to ending tenancies and having that rent come off the books. Next slide. Vacancies, again, as I mentioned, over the holidays, we do get an increase of it. The vacancy rate went up to 1.62%. We're taking steps right now to get that back down to where it should be. Again, we will also see seasonality of it. We will see an increase in the number of units that we receive after the holidays. Every year we see it, that in January and February, our vacancy is going to go up, and that the staff will work diligently to get that back to below the 2% service manager target. Next slide. This is with regards to the performance of the work orders. You can see from the bottom left that the work order performance has again started to climb back up as we're through the vast number of work orders that our staff created through the annual unit inspection process. Provides the committee with some groupings, what categories our staff are performing the most work in, the breakdown between vendors as well as the staff carried out work. Next slide. Administrative tickets, these are things that are held, tenant requests that are completed by our SSCs and our tenant services administrators. So again, just the total numbers, we started to close off a lot of those unit condition ones that were created through the August, September, and October time. And again, we just generally see a drop in December with regards to tenants engaging with staff and having questions of it. Everybody's busy with the holidays, and those will get back to seasonal norms. And then on the left, you have a breakdown, the top 5 reasons that we have these tickets complained of what our staff are interacting with our tenants the most with regards to. Next slide. Pest management. We do continue pest services throughout the holidays. We are very respectful of people who ask us not to come into their unit or they have unable to prepare because they have seasonal decorations. We work closely with the tenants to make sure that those problems aren't spreading and that they're under control. But we again see just a reduction in the number of services provided over the holiday season. Next slide. Being the end of the year, thought it was appropriate to just kind of give a bit of an overview of how the year went. You can see some of the traction that we've made with regards to arrears and vacancies over the year. That 102,000 number of work orders that we've created, as well as the 25,000 administrative tickets that our staff have responded to for tenants, as well as some of the categories that you saw in the previous slides. Next slide. Can we go to the next? Yeah. We included an overview slide of the annual unit inspections. It is a heavy lift for our staff. It's the legal requirement that we inspect all units within the corporation. Next slide, Karen. Just giving one more. Just giving some context with regards to some of the things that our staff are looking for and what they're doing. This is also in response. The committee had a question the last time. What is the breakdown between staff generated work orders and the ones that tenants are reporting? That information, we're really not able to pull that out of the system because our tenants do rely on paper work orders and they really like to come down to the office and discuss their problems with the staff in the building. But this is another way of breaking it down. One more slide, Karen. Where we're looking at it year over year and the trends as far as what our staff have done, the units they've inspected, the violations that they've seen, the work orders, and some of the actions that have resulted out of it. So just giving the board and the committee that breakdown that over the past 3 years and comparing those results together, the staff in the regions have a more detailed view building by building, and we're looking at reallocating some resources to use these analytics in order to determine the best outcomes and to provide them with the resources that we have. That is the end of the dashboard. If anybody has any questions.
Thanks. I really liked that summary page. It really speaks to a pretty heavy lift on and actually remarkably not as many issues as I would have expected. So is there anything that sort of jumps out from you and for this year on that, besides actually the work it takes? I had one quick question too. How long does a unit inspection take?
Yeah, great question. So the actual unit inspections do not take long. The staff are in the units for 15 to 20 minutes a piece. Out of that, we generate many of the system. The system generates different work orders on things that they flag. They generate different tickets with regards to the condition of the unit, the condition of the balcony. And then that follow-up is ongoing. We will be following up with the results and enacting the results that we found throughout the year. It's really about building on the results and using the data in an analytical manner. One of the things that we use it for is in determining, we partner with Toronto Community Housing on their State of Good Repair program, which is a renewal of the buildings. And this is the data that gets used to feed into that and to determine what buildings will be running through the State of Good Repair program. And the tenants will be receiving kitchens and upgrades and various things throughout the building, as well as our allocation of staff.
Great.
Generally, we start those inspections in August, and they're wrapped up by the end of October at the latest.
Okay, that's great. Any questions from any other board members?
There's one quick question on my end here.
Yeah.
So this is slide 7, the pest management. 1,540 units treated for a number of various different things, when 183 units declared pest-free. Is this just for December or pest-free over what period of time and how long? And I guess this is a moving target. You know, the pest-free is, for how long does that last? You know, or is it permanently these units are pest-free? Can you explain a little bit how that works? Because we got 1,500 units and there's only 183 that are pest-free. What can we do to better that number?
Yeah, that's a great question, Councillor. So first off, I'm going to say the 183 are just units that were declared pest-free for the month of December. It's a rolling number.
Yeah.
The average length of treatment for a unit is about 6 weeks. you can only apply pesticides once every 2 weeks. Those pesticides have to be applied in a certain manner. And then after that, sometimes there are additional treatments that are required. Some of the things that we've done throughout the year is we had a process by where we completed a pest treatment for an entire building, and then we looked at the results of that and saw how that program worked with regards to the allocation of staff resources and the better outcomes. And we're still monitoring the results of that to see if we're able to keep that building pest free. We also, our staff, our vendors are only allowed to apply chemicals that are approved by Environment Canada. There's recently been a newer chemical, a newer treatment approved that's a fungicide, and we've been piloting that within a couple of buildings. It's got about a 3-month lifespan to it after the application. We're hoping to see some positive results out of that. For us, one of the biggest impediments is living through pest control is not an easy thing. You have to live out of bags. You have to have all of your laundry. Everything has to be laundered. Everything has to remain in bags. It's really, there's a heavy lift on the tenant there. And we're really working with Toronto Public Health. They're a great partner to prepare units to help tenants do that thing. You can imagine being a senior and having to launder every piece of material in your unit and then to live out of bags as opposed to being able to even reach into a drawer to grab a new shirt and that. So we're really hoping that the new products that are coming out on the market that we're using will take off some of that lift on the tenant side, because that's where we see the issues with a lot of it.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Listen, I know it's really very, very challenging, particularly for seniors to manage the respective units. I don't know what technology or new products are going to be on the market down the road, but you know, it'd be great to get to a place where we are significantly doing a lot better than 183 units at any one given time. So. And I'm not sure what to add to that and where we go from here. I mean, is somebody doing any R&D on this to see what else is out there?
Yeah, that's why we're using that fungicide that I mentioned earlier, and we're keeping up with new products. Unfortunately, the way the products are provided and the way that they're approved by Environment Canada, often dilution rates and things like that. When you compare the products used in Canada versus those used in the United States, it's a very different sort of preparation as far as what you can buy and what you can use. And we're doing the best with the materials that we have for providing the service.
All right, thank you, Brad, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Really good questions as usual. Brad, just a quick question, and it relates to Mr. Margulis's early comments about the new tenant checklist. Could you just comment a little bit about picking up work orders for new tenants and just that process?
Yeah, thanks, Linda. So through the chair, we recently changed our leasing package that we provide to tenants. Part of that is included is a new tenant checklist, where beyond the documents that they're given an inspection form, and then once they're in their unit, they complete an inspection of their unit and they return that to the staff. If they don't return it to the staff do follow up with them in order to collect the new tenant checklist to ensure that now that they've moved in, that they haven't found any additional things within the unit that they would like addressed, or there aren't any misconceptions with regards to the stove or the appliances that we can go and clear up with tenants that had different expectations when they accepted the unit. Those get documented into the system, and they are included in the work order numbers that you would see in the dashboard that's provided to the committee.
Thanks for clarifying that. Any other comments, questions before we go on to the next part, which is the rapid rehousing report? Terrific. And this is an item that we asked Brad about, and I really appreciate that your willingness to actually give us a bit of an update on the rapid rehousing, which is part of the report as well.
Yeah, so I'll go. So the rapid rehousing report was requested the committee at a prior meeting, and what it provided the committee with is a list of breakdown with regards to across the 4 regions where we currently have those rapid rehousing tenants located. What the percentage is of the units that are allocated. So you can see that the saturation point is under 3% overall, and just under 3.3% in the Southeast for as far as rapid rehousing tenants. So those that are unfamiliar, the rapid rehousing program There's a program that the city started coming out of COVID where we work with the shelter system and we work with other city divisions that we partner with. And it's a direct placement of people from the shelter system into vacant units within the portfolio. Those people, when they come from the shelter system, also the city provides them with a social worker who has a wraparound support mandate in order to ensure that that tenancy is successful, and provide the person with some guidance and some assistance in becoming housed and getting used to having a roof over their head and a place to call home. It's a bit of a switch. There's currently a program, the Housing Disadvantage Program, that 1 in every 5 vacancies goes to somebody living in a shelter. So when people are thinking this is a new program, the part that's new to the program is that these people are coming into and becoming tenants with supports, as opposed to the previous model where they were being housed with no supports, and there was no transition from homelessness to housed. In the report, I highlighted a couple of the changes. There's a new assessment tool that we've been able to put in place along with the city. Our complex tenancies team is very involved with the project now, as well as the follow-up workers coming to the lease signings has been a big change. I think when you look at the changes that the city and TSHC have been able to make, it's really helped the program turn into quite a success. And I think when there's another graph that's in there that talks about tenancy management numbers, and you can really see the difference. You can see that the housing disadvantaged, the ones that came through that portal, were at about a 25% tenancy management rate, where our staff were working with them, and they had been served an legal notice to terminate their tenancy. And now you can see, and then beside it, we've provided the rapid rehousing tenants who are 10% less likely to receive any sort of tenancy management support. Their actual interactions about just over 15%. The program, as far as all the ways we've been able to measure it, has been a great success, and we're just really grateful to our partners of the city to be willing participants with us to make changes to the program and ensure that it's a success and it continues.
Thanks so much, Brad. And I see applause from Jim. I think people in Toronto would be surprised at the number of older adults that are actually living in the shelter system. And I think it's wonderful that we're actually providing some support to that end. Can you just confirm that the people that are coming into our buildings are actually meeting the age criteria?
Through the chair, I can. They meet the age criteria. They have to have a successful score on the STARS test, which is the service triage and assessment referral tool that we use when evaluating clients. And they have to be on the social housing wait list at the time of tenancy.
Thanks for clarifying that. A question came up at our last meeting, so I just wanted to clarify. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Brad, for the follow-up on that. Really appreciate it. Okay, I don't see any other.
Sorry, Jim has his hand up,
Oh,
Linda.
thanks, Jim. Go ahead, Jim.
I just wanted to say that I think this is one of the greatest things that we've been able to achieve. This is something that, as a community activist, I've been advocating for since my time on the board of street health. And we found through research that the reason people were remaining housed is because they had no supports. And I think the additions of having our Communities Plus approach is working. It sounds like it is actually working. And it just, it's proving what I already knew, that with the supports, people would be able to manage their tenancies.
Hear, hear, Jim.
Thank you.
I'm with you. I feel the same way. This makes me feel very good to hear it. Let's keep reporting on this, Brad. And even if there's hiccups that come up, please let us know how the board can continue to support.
Yep.
All right, and
Mrs. Chair, our CEO has his hand up.
Oh, thank you. I'm not seeing everybody, so I appreciate your help, Karen. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, through the chair, and thanks, Linda. Just to the community, and just quickly, I think one of the reasons we brought this forward, and just to recall, is that I will hear when I'm out in the buildings, often tenants say, some of these rapid rehousing tenants are causing disruption into the environment, and I think that is, in fact, that can be a truth. but also when you look at, I think, the data and the facts around providing these supports for deep affordable, support so that for deeply affordable housing, it's to Jim's point, it is very important. And so, if the city wasn't providing supports for these rapid rehousing, they would be coming into the buildings, and the challenges could be even greater. And so I just think it is really important to keep our eye on this, because I think the facts speak to themselves as it relates to kind of the supports do help to ensure more successful tenancies.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, so let's keep an eye on this. Actually, this is really relevant to our next item. So if there aren't any other questions, we'll move on to item number 11, which is our OACH report. And I know Melanie is on the line and is going to we're now doing this update twice a year, and this is our time. So go ahead, Melanie.
Okay, so thank you. So through the chair, I'm pleased to present to you the OACH biannual report. So we received 125 referrals in this period and screened out 34 files. I'm happy to report that of the 34 files sent back, the majority of these files were returned for reasons other than non-compliance with the arrears collection process, and only 4 were re-referred to OACH for intervention. In this period, 98 files were assigned to an early resolution officer for intervention, and in the majority of cases, the arrears were under $2,000 at the time of referral, demonstrating that TSHC is addressing arrears early before they accumulate to an unmanageable level. In addition, the OACH audit findings continue to be positive and have improved in all categories for this period. So great work, everyone. The OACH completed its work with 92 households in this period and avoided eviction in 96% of cases. In 2024, the OACH referred 69 cases to the Toronto Rent Bank and accessed approximately $158,000 in funding. Of the 69 cases, the arrears were paid in full for 51. And for the remaining 18, a local repayment agreement was brokered. However, because of the upfront payment from the Toronto Rent Bank, the length of the repayment agreement was shortened from an average of 83 months to 26 months. Lastly, in 2024, the OACH continued its partnership with Wood Green Community Services and is working with TCHC and TSHC to expand access to the program to the CSCs at TCHC and the SSCs at TSHC. We hope this will start in 2025, and that through these efforts, fewer tenants will get into arrears because of losses of subsidy. Things continue to work well between the OACH and TSHC, and I welcome any questions from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. It was easy to read, and it was good to see where things are sitting. Any comments or questions from anyone? Sounds like, Melanie, that things are what's always important to me is that there's a strong relationship with the OACH team and with the seniors housing team, and it sounds like the going back and forth is working well in terms of follow up. Any comments about the relationship and follow up?
Thank you. So through the chair, I think things are working really well. Our teams are very responsive back and forth, and I think we do our best to support each other when we're sending files back or even receiving files. And I think this new partnership with Wood Green will be even better once we can expand it to TSHC staff, because it will really help us be proactive in avoiding losses of subsidy. So yeah, I think everything is working well. Thank you.
Great, and kudos on the partnerships with the Rent Bank and with Wood Green. And actually, the thing that I always look at is the amount of the arrears. It's actually heartening that most of the arrears are actually manageable, and that's what we want to see as well, because that's anyone who is living with debt knows that we want to keep that small. So that's great. Thank you, Melanie, for another good report. And I think that's just for information at this point. So we will thank you, not just for information, important information. So thank you for that and for the teamwork. We will move on to the tenant experience survey action plan. This is actually something that our committee has responsibility for and is a very important item. And I think Grant is going to, I don't think we have a deputation on this one. So Grant, you're going to go on to this one.
Thank you. through the chair. So before the committee today is a report that outlines the Tenant Experience Survey Action Plan. The Tenant Experience Survey, as the committee may recall, was conducted at the end of 2023 and early 2024. We reported the results out in the middle of 2024, and subsequent to that, undertook some activity to develop the action plan that's before you today. The process that was followed included analyzing the results from the survey and identifying some priority areas. When you looked at the survey, there were some areas that scored lower that informed the priority areas, and also some areas that mattered most to tenants in terms of driving overall satisfaction. So the 4 priority areas that were identified and are part of the way that the plan has been structured were to strengthen the sense of community, to enhance services and supports, including referrals to access services and supports for tenants, creating more opportunities or platforms for tenants to share their concerns or complaints with TSHC, and to enhance responsiveness and accountability overall. A blend of different stakeholders were engaged to review and develop the plan, including the extended leadership team within TSHC. There were a couple of virtual tenant sessions held. The leadership team was involved. And before you, we also did an analysis of the existing strategic directions and all the actions that were already planned or underway. So the plan encompasses both a combination of looking at the existing work that was already planned or underway and anything new. So 26 existing actions and strategic directions are aligned to these 4 priority areas. And the attachments that are with this report, the first one's a presentation overview, sort of a summary view of the process and recommended actions here. And then the second attachment is a detailed view of all the existing strategic directions and the new and/or amended items. So out of the 26, we had, in addition to the 26, we had 2 actions that we proposed some revised language around, associated with things like tenant meetings and the health and wellness pilots. There were 2 new actions that were included around improving communications. One was around the building profiles, and the second was around a new quality improvement project around building maintenance. You're going to hear about some of these things and other matters today as well. And then the third were some future considerations around additional analysis, looking for additional on-site capacity in health and mental health support, and a process for tenant circle complaints. In these strategic directions reports that are coming up next on the agenda, we built in these items into the recommended changes to the roadmap, for example, that we're asking the committee to consider to move forward to board for approval. So all of this will be embedded in the overall strategic directions roadmap. And that's how we'll monitor this going forward. And I'll just remind the committee that in addition to the action plan here, we will also be looking to do our next survey starting later this year. So we're doing it every 2 years. So we'll start the survey at the end of this year, so in the last quarter of 2025, to conclude in early 2026. And I'll pause for any questions at this point.
Great, thank you. Any questions, knowing that some of it will actually probably be answered in your next 2 items, so it's well set up. Any hands up? I don't see any hands up. All right, thank you for that, Grant. I think what we'll do then is move on to the strategic directions, and actually the roadmap for that we're going to be looking for an approval. So over to you, Grant, for the next item.
Thank you. So through the chair, the next item, number 13, is the strategic directions quarterly progress update for Q4 2024. So I'll just go over, this is the regular type of quarterly update as we've been bringing since the strategic directions were put in place. I'll just go over a few highlights from the dashboard and a few things from the roadmap as well. So in Q4 of 2024, there were some good results in several areas. Rent collection rate was at 100%. The housing occupancy remained strong at 98.38%. Pest management, 745 units were declared pest-free over the quarter. I know that was discussed earlier on the operations dashboard. On vacancy management, the unit turnover reduced from 61 down to 61 days from 65, so that's a small improvement there. In terms of the community activities funds, there were 21 community activity fund applications in the fourth quarter for a total of 252 overall in 2024. Significant number of community activity fund applications for the year. $117,000 in community activity funds were distributed in Q4, and a total of $240,000 for the year. That year-end total is being validated right now, so it may shift a little bit as that reconciliation completes, but that's a significant increase over last year. There were also 136 one-time social events in the fourth quarter, so a lot of activity happening there. Staff recruitment also began. There's a little bit of an update later on in today's meeting in Arlene's item 2. There were 238 recurrent programs. That's a 7% increase over Q3, and you'll see if you look at the previous dashboard, it's been increasing a little bit every quarter, which is great. More programs, as we know, and there's a significant demand for that. Some partnerships are highlighted in the dashboard. From a people and culture or employee of choice lens, we mentioned the TSHC all-staff meeting. There was also the Staff Long Service Awards in December, where over 100 staff were recognized, and some updates on the training and financial results were also on the dashboard. On the roadmap itself, we're looking at the activities. 34 projects or activities were scheduled to be completed in the fourth quarter. 10 were completed, or 29%. 18 items were shifted to revised timelines, and that will tie into some of the items in the next item on the agenda, which is the updated roadmap. 5 things were moved to ongoing, and 1 item was removed. If you look at some of the completed, several important and significant items were completed. There were some updates around the safety and security quality improvement project. The new TSHC welcome package, which is a big deliverable that was there. The annual unit inspections were completed, as Brad had mentioned earlier. There was a pilot of tenant roundtables last year that was completed. The building profiles, which were also part of the report that went to ECDC, were done. The research partnerships, as I mentioned, the 2025 budget. We've identified a future quality improvement project as well, and a succession. We developed a succession plan for the organization. These are just some of the highlights. I didn't go through everything, but quite a few things actually were happening in the fourth quarter. With that, I'll take any questions. I'll be doing an update on the roadmap in the next item.
Yeah, I think that's important. Any questions for folks? It was a pretty comprehensive report, and I appreciated that. Jim?
I just wanted to ask. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. I'll come back.
That's okay. If it comes back, it was a big report.
Where can I find the building profiles? You mentioned
through the chair. Those were included as part of the package that went out with the ECDC materials, the Economic and Community Development Report on the service model. And they were in earlier packages. Jim, we can have those circulated for your review. It was one of the attachments on a report, and it's also available as part of the package that was with the meeting.
Which committee?
It came to Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee. I think it was in the September meeting.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
I'll look back and I can see it from there.
We can certainly follow up and send you an email with a link to that.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, and feel free to CC me as well. That's great. Any other questions or comments? It's a lot of work. And what I like about these reports is it feels like the whole organization is embraced in this. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, that it flows nicely to the 2025 roadmap, and I think really think about this in terms of does this reflect what you've just actually heard, and what we should be continuing to do. And I'll pass it back over to Grant for item number 14, and this one will be for an approval because we're looking for a motion to bring it to the board.
Thank you, Linda. Through the chair. So before the committee, this item is similar to an item we brought forward last year around this time, which was an update seeking approval for the roadmap. So the roadmap are the more detailed activities associated with the strategic directions. And to prepare this update internally within the team, we had some discussions, some planning discussions with the leadership team around the current roadmap. Similar to how we updated it in the February meeting of last year and brought it forward to board, we're bringing forward an update again similarly here. So as part of ongoing planning, we look to assess the roadmap from the perspective of TSHC's ability to execute and sustain these initiatives going forward. As you note, we've been doing the reporting quarterly on, and as I just in the previous item reported on, a number of items were completed, but we actually also had to revise some timelines for some of those items too. All of those changes and additionally further changes are proposed in the roadmap before you today. There are two attachments on the report. One of them is a clean version of an updated roadmap, and one is a track changes version of an updated roadmap. So on that track changes version, you'll see all the changes, in red. You can tell what we've added or deleted. And then items that are completed are just have a strike through in gray to sort of show you what's done. The updated roadmap with the additional, so there's 25 new items on the roadmap. And this is, as we go through each year, more details become available to inform the roadmap. And we're able to provide more detail around what we're going to actually measure ourselves towards in the coming year. There are also 46 items with revised timelines, 7 were removed, and 10 things were moved to ongoing. Overall, a total of 153 time-limited activities now in the proposed roadmap before you. To give you some context as to where we are in the completion of the roadmap, this was started in 2023. We're now obviously in the beginning of 2025. We've completed 90 time-limited activities on the roadmap to date, or approximately 59%. So we've made pretty good progress in those 2 years. However, there's still a fair amount to go. We've actually increased the number of activities a little bit with this update. And one other thing we've included in this view for the committee is how we're doing by objective. So internally, as we review and do the planning conversations around these items, we've actually had more detailed discussions of each objective and or the 2 enablers to see how we're doing to what was planned. So you'll see on objective 1, excellent landlord, we're 78% completed, or 18 of 23. On objective 2, for around tenant engagement, we're 80% completed, or 20 of 25 activities. So we've made quite a bit of progress in those first 2 objectives, which is really great. And I think the committee is seeing some of that and some of the other outcomes and results. In objective 3 around partnerships, we're at 50%, 2 of 4. So we've made some progress there. And we know that's an area where we're continuing to focus efforts. And there'll be an update later in today's meeting on some of that. On objective 4 on innovation, we're at 54%. So we've made some progress there, mostly in some of the research work. So 7 of 13. And then the enabler 1 on organizational excellence, there's quite a few activities here. We're at 49%, or 31 of 63. So there's quite a bit still to do here, but we've still made a fair amount of progress. And then under enabler 2, which is employer of choice, we're at 48%, pretty much the same, half done, 12 of 25. So we're going to continue to monitor this going forward. And the intent is for the committee today to consider this to move forward to the board for approval. And then we would continue to monitor this similarly to how we have quarterly broad updates. And then later this year, I'll just note, we are looking at reviewing the future strategic planning process to ultimately consider the next version of our strategic directions for TSHC. And I'll take any questions.
Thanks, Grant. Questions? I have a question, but I'll see if anybody else has anything first. I guess the big question is this doable? I wonder about some of the, and I'm looking at Tom and Grant in terms of, how is the team feeling about this as we go to the board in terms of, is it realistic? I'm thinking about particularly those items that are 50% or less. We seem to be making some, for good reason, but just wondering the climate of feeling like this is realistic for the coming year.
Go through the chair. I'll start, and Tom, if you'd like to add anything, please, of course, feel free. As we went through the process of reviewing the roadmap, we were pretty diligent about trying to understand how capacity would impact and other things would impact the ability to actually complete these items and to learn from the progress over the last couple of years where we've had to review as we've gone along. I think that because we're doing the quarterly reviews and having an opportunity for that fairly regular visibility into progress, it's allowed us to be a little bit more flexible in terms of understanding what the impacts might be. It's still quite a bit to do. However, we've got another level of detail now. And I will flag that we did remove 7 things. And in some cases, it's now become more clear that what we originally thought might be a time limited activity is more of an ongoing thing. So we've moved some stuff into the ongoing space. So overall, I think it is doable. However, it's the kind of thing when we come through each year and we go through a cycle, there's always going to be an opportunity for us to have a fresh set of eyes and to reflect on the progress and experience of the past. So that is what you're seeing today. We're about 60% done, as I said. We're going to use this as an input into the future strategy planning project to kind of position as to how much do we see that evolving from where we are today, because there's still a bit to do, as noted. But I think overall we've made pretty good progress. And I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Tom.
Yes, just through the chair to the committee, I think it's very kind of I think optimistic in terms of what we want to achieve. But I think that's being said, we've regularly reported on what our progress has been, right? So through the plan, setting those goals, and with the enablers, right? What are our specific actions? And so I think there has been kind of really good communication about where things have moved, where we had successes, but where we still have to do work. So I think as long there's an understanding, right, that those markers will move, and I think that it's good for us to see what is ahead of us, how we're progressing. Understanding that adjustments are going to be made one way or the other based on on capacity. So we will monitor that closely too. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And I do appreciate that we get regular updates and that the strategic plan doesn't feel like the strategic work doesn't feel like it's actually something somewhere off in the corner, that it's actually very integrated into our regular meetings and reports. So without any other questions, I'm wondering if I could ask Jim and Fareed if you would be willing to move and second this going to the board for further approval. So I'm looking for a motion. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Fareed, can I ask you to second? And with Fareed may have had to jump off. Maybe I'll go to Councillor Crisanti, another board member too, or Lawrence. Lawrence, would you be able to second? Thank you so much. All in favor? Thanks, Lawrence. Great. All in favor? Terrific. Thank you. All right. And yes, this will continue to, we're going to continue to talk about things that are actually within the strategic roadmap with our partnership review. But before we get to that, we are going to, and also with our QUIP work. So the next item is item 15, and it's our quality improvement progress report. And before Grant presents, once finished, let's ask, is Bill on the line?
He is, Mrs. Chair. I just admitted him.
Terrific. Hi, Bill. I'm going to let you go for 5 minutes and or up to 5 minutes, and we'll start now if you're willing to jump in. I think Bill's on the phone, right? Bill, are you there? I don't think I'm hearing him. Karen, is he? Do you know if he's there?
He's just needing to. We're sending him.
Okay. We'll give him the time. I can see you, Bill, but I can't hear you. But it's okay. Take your time.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Apologies.
And you're deputing on the quality improvement project report, and we're going to be sophisticated and put the 5-minute clock up.
That's all right, because I just started mine. Good
Terrific.
afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Hunter, and committee members. My name is Bill Lohman. And I've been listening to most of the meeting here, and as it relates to the quality improvement project, and and more specifically, the staff and tenant relations. There has been a massive amount of work that has that's taken place through the communication systems that that have been set up, the seniors speak, as well as starting to integrate into the different buildings with the different policies and the supports that that are really beneficial, that help bring some life to the communities. And looking at the report, I'd like to know a little bit more about what the senior focused training is. If especially being a STAC member and an implementation table member, it'd be kind of nice to know how this program kind of intersects and fits into what we're doing at the building level. And I think that for the most part, our efforts that we're seeing are really well put together. There's and I view it as these are the starting place. We've spent the last few years building the structure for the for the integrated service model and seniors housing. And the last year or so, we've been working on the Community Connect Plus and the tenant engagement aspect. And so now that those two are in place and the use of space passed with the board last September, it's now being integrated into the buildings. And so here's an opportunity for learning. And we had our annual community building meeting a week or so ago, and one of the things that there could be there could be a little more senior focused approach to the meetings. Just some simple things like maybe being in front of a desk instead of behind it. And using some visuals, particularly like if people are voting, putting up so many for, so many against, so that people can actually see what's being recorded. And I think they're just the types of things that they're small things, but they're the types of things that really help people connect or help them feel that they're being heard. But that aside, there's what has been done and the amount of programming and supports that are coming into the different buildings, and hearing about the efforts that tenants are making. I think it's just, I think Mr. Hunter has just done an amazing job over the last 2 years to set a foundation that I think has great possibilities. So, but it needs to have tenant input. And I think those are the kinds of things that we can, that can be explored as we're bringing these policies in, making sure that tenants are participants and that they see that their voice is having effect and, supporting what they see as their well-being. So with that, I'm going to end with 30 seconds left. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you, Bill, for the comments. Tom, did you want to speak about the seniors training?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
go I
Yes,
knew
so
that.
always chomping on the bit on that one is through the chair and to Bill and the committee. So Bill, I think what we can do is for helpful, I think to many tenants would bring back really an update to Stack on the education that has kind of taken place over the last kind of 2 years, just at high level with staff, but I think more particularly those areas that have been more seniors focused and where we hope to move more with that training with tenants and a seniors focus. I have to tell you, based on kind of some of the legislative expectations and IT cybersecurity now and the training that we're doing for staff, we are, I know Carol with her team, they have to be kind of really thoughtful on just what is going to be kind of the itinerary for our staff and that training. So I think that's something to look forward to. And I also, think to also from even the tenant's perspective, right? What is it? The kind of even education with tenants that can be kind of applicable with that seniors lens as well. So those are just, we can provide, I think, to start an update at Stack for some of those tenants. That'd be good. But there's a lot spinning in those spaces.
Great. Thanks, Tom. And Bill gave us a few nuggets that maybe could just actually be shared with staff when they're doing a presentation, standing in front of the desk, and using more visuals, like just actually getting real-time feedback. So thanks for those nuggets.
Yeah, Linda.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Crisanti.
Yeah, and just to echo a couple of comments you just made, and of course, I want to thank Bill for coming on a great deputation. And I think we need to be more proactive to ensure that we do everything we can to communicate to our seniors that we want them to be activate more and be a part of these meetings in some way. But when he mentioned the point about the visual and maybe how we register our votes, if we're in favor. Maybe at times you need recorded votes. I think that should be public information right on the screen, much like we do in council. You could see, you can see who's in favor and who's against very, very quickly because you have that visual right in front of you. And also maybe ensuring that they also get information on our agendas, and so they can follow the agendas with us as well. So, but that was a great deputation, and I think we can pick up. And I also noted that is this the first time that we're actually using a timer? We haven't done that before, correct?
Yeah, we've gone back to the timer. Yes.
No, that's great because we need to be more organized ourselves here in terms of how we manage our own meetings, and that's one way of doing it. If deputants, I'm sure they don't mind. If they can't tell us what they want to tell us in 5 minutes, then it just better organizes their thoughts and even our own. Maybe the timer should also apply for any one of us. So we're not going on and on beyond 5 and 10 minutes. It keeps this meeting within the pillars of the time, and it becomes more effective at the end of the day. Just a thought. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crisanti. Those are some more good nuggets. I know that Bill always has his watch on, so he usually stays within the 5 minutes. But this is good. It's a good test. Thank you very much. And I think with that, we'll move on to the presentation from Grant. And if there's anything you wanted to add as well related to Bill's comments, feel free to.
Thank you, Linda. So through the chair, before the committee is the quality improvement Q3 and Q4 update report. Just to refresh, there were the 3 quality improvement projects on safety and security, pest management, and staff and tenant relations. The report before you shows the accomplishments for the last 2 quarters of last year. At the September Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee meeting, there was the 1-year report as well that was brought forward. So that is another reference to the overall progress across the QIPs at the time. For Q3 and Q4, there were 14 targeted items for completion. 11 of those were completed. 2 are still in progress, and there's 1 ongoing item. One item was moved to ongoing, sorry. There is a table attachment to the report that goes into more specifically the status for each individual action. I can note that overall for the quality improvement for these 3 quality improvement projects, We are now 89% complete for all the time limited activities associated with them. And we're on target to have 96% complete by Q3 of this year. So the vast majority of the items in the quality improvement projects have been completed or are on the verge of being completed this year. Some highlights that are in the report across the 3 different areas. In the pest management, we did highlight that the environmental health supervisor now attends the tenant town halls to help with pest management. And that's an area we've heard a bit about already on today's meeting. That is still a priority. On the safety and security front, we talked a bit about the annual unit inspections. A minute ago, you'll see in the report there is some information about some of the staff training as well. We've also got the upcoming, we've had some improvements in some of the data reporting and the upcoming reporting as well coming to this committee at the next meeting. And a third-party security review was also undertaken. On the staff and tenant front, in addition to the seniors lens training, and as was mentioned, something will be going forward to stack. There was also the new welcome guide, the tenant roundtables that were introduced last year as well. Overall, this will be the last report that we're bringing forward in this structure for these 3 quality improvement projects. Now that we're substantially complete, the remaining reporting will be through the strategic directions, where the items that are still to be done will still be there. And I'll just flag one more thing, which I did mention earlier, but we have on our plan, on the roadmap that was just approved previously in the last item, we do have a new quality improvement project in there to look at building maintenance service standards this year and to resurface the approach that was done with the QIPs previously in terms of having joint staff, tenant working groups, and a project to undertake looking at maintenance service standards, an area that is directly aligned as well to an action from the tenant experience survey and the survey results. So they all tie together, and we're looking forward to working on that one. So, the quality improvement projects have been quite an undertaking since they started, and we're, started in late 2022. The projects reported out in the sort of the Q2 of 2023, and we've been working on them for about 1.5 years now, and we're pleased to report they're mostly done. And I'll take any questions.
That's great. Any questions from anyone? So we'll be just focusing on one quip that's on the building maintenance, which is actually really aligned. I was glad to see that. All right. Well, this actually leads into very well into the next item that is also very relevant to our strategic directions, and that's about engagement and partnerships. So with that, I think if there aren't any more questions on this one, we will move on to the engagement and partnership update. And I believe Bill wanted to depute on this one before we get started. And so we will get Bill queued up and our clock queued up. Bill, are you still there?
Sent a request to him as chair.
Okay. Hi, Bill.
There we go. Thank you.
We've got the clock up, and you're welcome to start.
Thank you very much. And once again, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Hunter, and members of the committee. My name is Bill Lohman. And engagement and partnership, I am heavily involved in that, and have been. And there are parts of it that are just taking off really well. I mean, when you look at the statistics, there's programming coming into all of the into the buildings of all different sorts, and and you're seeing many more tenants taking the lead, in their in tenant-led programming. So I think as a starting point, and with the CAF funding, I mean that's a wonderful tool, to help get tenants interested in participating in their own fun and activities. So I think there's a lot of good things that are happening. we're also at a, I don't know if you call it a perfect storm, but it's, we're at a point now where the integrated service model and that accountability framework that's been set up over the last couple of years is now, we have an engagement process, and the community connect with the funding and the different agencies and the medical support services are all starting to converge here. And so this is really it's really valuable and a critical time, I think. And the better we can communicate and between the different stakeholders, because each stakeholder has a role to play in the process, right? I mean, tenants see what's going on. Tenants become aware of who's vulnerable and who needs something. And so, how do you get that information to a housing person, a medical staff, the nurse, so I mean, there's ways that are being put together to help tenants do that. And then there's that connection about where does it go from there, and how is that being connected into a way that it's actually working in the neighborhood care model. So it's, so I mean, all of these different things are starting to come together. And I just, as a tenant, I have to beat the drum about the need for tenants to be involved in the process. And that particularly when it comes to their community space, they need to have a voice in that and recognize that. And I think those are the ideals, right? But then there's always things that are happening over here or there. And, and so the more coordinated and inclusive I call it a round table, that conversation among the different stakeholders, the better tenants are being served, and to get the supports they need. So I think that, again, this is a wonderful opportunity, and I just want to, again, push tenants need to be involved, and that's it for today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. And I do appreciate your ongoing guidance to us and input, truly, and reminder of the importance of actually, we can do all kinds of things, but if it doesn't make sense for the tenants and it led by the tenants, and we're missing the point. So thank you. Any points of clarification for Bill? All right. So thank you, Bill. And I know that Arlene will probably speak to some of that as well. And I'm going to pass it over Arlene for the update on our partnerships.
Thank you. And through the chair, my connectivity seems a little bit wonky, so just bear with me. Karen, could we bring up the presentation, please? And thank you, Bill, for your deputation, raising some important points about making sure tenant voices are throughout the organization. And I think we've made great strides in that way while we built the presentation. We've got tenants on the board, we've got tenants at STAC, we've got tenants at the implementation table, tenants at the building level. So we're really working hard to make sure tenant voices are always part of the conversation. So I wanted to provide an engagement and partnership update, just a bit of a year in review and a bit of what's coming up. So Bill referenced the annual building planning meetings that we have underway. You would recall in 2024, we did these meetings between January and March, and we're doing them again. We have 72 meetings planned up until March of 2020, the end of March 2025. We are focusing on what tenant-led programs tenants want to see in 2025, reporting on the activities and budgets from 2024, and then looking to increase the role of tenants in their tenant circle so that they do have more of a voice in what happens in their buildings, and really encouraging them to use the activities fund to be able to build capacity within their buildings so that they can do more of the things they want to do to bring joy into their community and to reduce isolation. So those meetings are underway, and that was the meeting Bill was speaking about. Those meetings are taking various formats this year, where tenants have told us time and time again. I have 12 meetings with tenants every year, and they've told us time and time again they don't really like presentations. It feels very much like we're talking at them. They prefer to have conversations, so we're responding to some of that. And then if they want to have if they want more presentations, we certainly can adapt, because we do have that information. We do share agendas at these meetings. So and follow up from the meetings, there will be notes of what was the decisions that were made will be captured and shared back to the tenants that attended, so that they know what they have agreed to, and then there'll be a follow up to get more people involved in actually creating those events in 2025. So that's about what we're doing on the meetings that help with capacity building this year. And as part of the meetings, we're also including training on the CAF application, so tenants really understand how to complete that in the best possible way. And we've developed 2 more modules to help tenants understand more about Community Connect Plus and the Tenant Volunteer Code of Conduct, which Bill was very, very much involved in creating. And those learning modules are available on demand if tenants wish to take advantage of those. But so just from a capacity building perspective, we developed these training pieces to deliver to tenants. So if we can move to the next slide, please. So I wanted to provide an update. So that was on the building meetings, an update on what we've been doing with STAC in 2024. We shared this with STAC, and they were just amazed at how much they had been able to inform the activities of the organizations. They've been involved in everything that's noted on that slide in terms of development or feedback or criticisms, and just ways in which they can lift us up, and ways they can ask us to change. And we're very, very grateful for their commitment. Just 25 hours of meetings they've attended to give us input on a variety of topics. And we try to be responsive to their feedback. And so we see this time with STAC as being very, very valuable. If we can move to the next slide, please. Again, this is just the accomplishments, the things that they did in 2024. We will be going back to them and looking for their input on things like how do we continue to work on Community Connect Plus? What do we do for Seniors Month? What do we do for Seniors Day? Input on the content for Seniors Speak. And in 2024, they were able to provide some input to convene TO. And on the Renters Forum, by invitation of the Mayor's Office, they were some STAC members were able to provide their direct input on the Renters Forum that was held late in 2024. If we can move to the next slide, please. So right now we're in the midst of trying to have more tenant voices in the conversation at the STAC table, and we're looking to grow that table to 24 members. We've been doing a lot of work in promoting that with the existing volunteers through Senior Speak at meetings. We find every way possible, including working with community partners who are working with specific populations that we don't typically see as part of the STAC group. We're targeting those communications so that if you're from a specific population, we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to at least know that your voice can make a difference. So we're working with some of those partner agencies with the help of the city as well to encourage more participation across the spectrum so that we can grow our STAC membership, which is currently 8. We want to grow that to 24 members. And currently we have 19 online submissions, and we've held 2 virtual information sessions where 4 interested tenants attended. And as part of those sessions, we wanted to make sure that the tenants who are interested in joining STAC had an opportunity to have a very frank conversation with their colleagues about what does it actually mean to be a STAC member. So staff hosted a portion of the information session and left a good amount of time, between 30 and 40 minutes, for tenants to have a conversation with the existing STAC members where staff were not in the conversation, so that they could get sort of their without an unfiltered view. They had that conversation with the current membership to get their thoughts and input. So our recruitment continues. We extended the deadline to the end of February instead of the end of January, just to allow for more people to have a chance to come forward, because December and January was a very busy time for many people. So if we can move to the next slide, please. We are also, in terms of stack meeting planning, I provided the stack members with an annual plan at our last meeting, which was accepted. We did that in 2024, and they agreed to do it again in 2025. We included, based on their feedback, the addition of something called a tenants forum, and it's at the very beginning of all of the meetings, where the tenants are able to bring forward the items that are of concern to them. They felt that the agendas in the past did not give them enough of a forum to actually talk about the things that were important to them. So we have allocated 45 minutes on each agenda, so tenants that are members of STAC can come forward with issues that were important to them. And it was very, very well received. And then as of May, we will be starting to have hybrid meetings again at the suggestion of staff members. They felt that this would be a good direction to move in, and with the help of our friends at City Hall, they have helped us to secure space so that we can do that starting in May in 2025, which is when we expect the new cohort to begin coming in to increase the membership. If we can move to the next slide, please. And then an update on the Community Activities Fund. Grant really already touched down on most of this when he was reporting on our dashboard, but we're up 78% in spending on Community Activities Fund in 2024. We are up 136% in volunteerism from 2023 to 2024, and we had 89% of all developments participating in a CAF event. I think we are working very hard to increase tenant voices in what they want and need in their building. We have significantly increased our investment in community development to support aging at home, and we have seen a rise in participation, which means that there is some increased socialization towards reducing isolation, which is part of the work that we're mandated to do. We can move to the next slide, please. And so this just talks about, and again, Grant touched on this briefly, the increased social and wellness activities that we've had. There's a 78% increase in activities year over year. Even if we were coming out of COVID in 2023, right? So in 2024, we put in Community Connect Plus. So we're seeing this rise. I would say I wouldn't hold my breath to see that increase next year necessarily, but we continue the work to grow activities within the buildings. If we can move to the next slide, please, Karen. Thank you. In Community Connect Plus in 2024, so we saw a rise in volunteers, 172. We had 58 tenant circles. The goal was to have 4. We saw a really good attendance for our regional meetings, where tenant volunteers from the building are coming out and meeting quarterly, or 3 times a year, with us, giving us information, and we get to share information with them and learn from them. We were able at our last meeting to bring forward health and wellness information that was targeted to the needs that tenants were interested in hearing about. The work that we did was with the support of Baycrest and UHN. They customized the program and brought it to us, and the information that they were preparing for that for those conversations was directly influenced by the tenants who sit at the partnership table, and they said this is what tenants want to hear about. So they drafted materials. UHN and Baycrest, they brought it back to the tenants and said, is this what you want? They said, can you fix this? Can you fix that? And they did. And then they brought it out into the regional meetings to make that engagement much more meaningful for the tenants, which was very, very well received. We've also had implementation table meetings, and these meetings help us to move the work of Community Connect Plus along with the STAC meetings. And then we've developed new terms of reference and a number of other documents associated with embedding the values and the way in which we want to work with tenants moving forward. And again, of course, we started the work to increase membership into STAC. So that's the work we did for Community Connect Plus in 2024. For 2025, this is the work that we are contemplating. We are contemplating, of course, continuing to do the work at the implementation table. They help to define our learning and development opportunities that we take to tenants. So they're going to help us to do that, and they're going to take a look at a volunteer development program that should be coming forward later in the quarter to them for input. They will also be looking to define tenants' roles and responsibilities, as well as the removal of a volunteer if they're not working within the constructs of the code of conduct, and then ongoing work to help support and define tenant circles. It's been very organic, and in each building it's slightly different. And so we're not trying to do a cookie cutter in every building because we understand the dynamics are different, but we wanted to offer some guidance where that's helpful. We're also going to work with the health and social services sector to see if we can look at bringing in some pilot programs to better support the needs of tenants in areas where they're underserved. So that's something that we're presently in the investigative stage of, and we'll update the table on that. We're working with LHC to look at the Local Housing Corporation to look at solutions to work with better supports for aging at home, and that plays right into the work that we do with Ontario Health. And then we're looking to implement this new volunteer program, and we're also pursuing a few research study participation projects in 2025. That's on the strategic side. And then on the technical side, on the next slide, we are looking at continuing fulfillment of program requests for 2024 that we were not able to do, where it was partner-led programs. So we're working on that. By the end of April, we will hope to have our first reports on the agreements, new agreements we put in place that have reporting key performance indicators. We hope to bring that forward. And then we, of course, will be having regional meetings and putting in some new garden guidelines and continuing some of the work that we're already doing with partners around things within the city, like the piano project and Wi-Fi and items of that nature. And then we're also bringing in 3 new staff, thanks to, if it goes through in the budget tomorrow, we should be getting 3 new headcount for 2 additional permanent community service coordinators and 1 supervisor, which is really sorely needed for the team. So those are our strategic and tactical priorities for the year. Then the next slide is a graphical view of what I just told you, just to give you a different view of it. It also offers you a very clear view of when we have tenant-led events, where we see our peaks and our less peak time. So you'll see that the May to September is busy, September not so much, and then October is busy with celebrations during the harvest season, and then again in December. So it just gives you a sense of sort of how things flow. And we've instituted volunteer updates that we send out bi-monthly, and you'll see that will continue moving forward. And we coordinate that with the volunteer meetings so that they get information coming out of the meetings, as well as any other updates that we wish to provide for them. So just so you have a sense of how the program looks overall. If we can move to the next slide, please. I just wanted to provide a quick update on the contracts. So we have a total of 56 partners currently on our books. We have 54 contracts out for signature, 2 that we're still working on getting out. And we are working to get these in place by the end of February. But this work is actually slower than we had anticipated. We had hoped that we would have been further along in getting all those partnership agreements signed, but there's lots of back and forth, as you can imagine. Lots of our legal needs to talk to their legal, and that goes back and forth for a bit. But we're doing, I think, overall very, very well. And in getting these in place. And part of the role of the supervisor when they come in is to pick up the work of managing these contracts and the insurances on a sort of ongoing basis. Right now we have a temporary resource who's doing an excellent job helping us to do that work. So if we could move to the next slide. Timeline of activities, so which I pretty much covered most of that already. If we can move to the next slide, please, Karen. So I wanted to just touch down on the 2024 program requests. As you would recall, we had quite a number of program requests, and we've gone through and looked at them. And while there were over 304 requests overall, through the work that we've done in 2024, we were able to meet 43 of the priorities that tenants were asking us to hit. We are focusing on priority 1 and 2, which is about 124 requests, and 17 of those have been met. And in the area of a priority 1 or 2 program, it's things like fitness or health services or digital literacy. Excuse me. And so these, sorry, if we could just go back to the next slide just for a second, just want to make sure I finish off. These priorities were how the tenants identified they had 5 priority areas. And so we were focusing on the top 2. And then if we are able to get to 3 and 4, we will do that. So we are working, if you can go to the next slide, we are working with the city to fulfill some of these requests, because as part of our ECDC, our Economic and Community Development Report that we filed in October, there was another motion for us to work more closely with the city to deliver programs through city divisions. So as it relates to what's on the next slide, on slide 22, the fitness and health education and some of the digital literacy pieces, we are working with the city to see if they'll be able to help us address some of those, working with some of their divisions. And then the others, we have to work with with other providers to try to address the needs that tenants have identified. If we can move to the next slide, please. So this is just an overview of the priorities. It's a summary of how many were identified, how many might be met by current programming, what the overall remainings were, and then the number 1 and 2 priorities. There are 107 in total, and you can see it by region. And then there's still 154 3 to 5 priorities that need to be fulfilled. But I don't know that we'll get to 3 and 4. We're just trying to get to 1 and 2 this year. I think that's, and this just gives you an idea of what some of the agency-led or tenant-led programs might be under those priorities as we move forward. Some of them that the tenants can do on their own, but they might need some guidance from a group on, for example, bingo. In one instance, we have a community that wants bingo, but they need a bingo caller in a specific language, and that community doesn't know how to play bingo. So it could be tenant-led, but we need an agency to help support bringing that in. So that's my update. I'll take any questions. Thank you, Karen.
That's a lot. That's great. Thank you very much, Arlene. Comments, questions from anyone? I was struck by that. Was it 78% increase year over year? That was that kind of stood out to me, which is us actually staying on track with what people were wanting. Any other questions or comments? I appreciate that Stack has actually the Stack feedback, and I also the fact that we actually are recruiting more members for Stack, which is great. So more people and more voices.
We're excited. We hope to get lots of new members.
Yeah, that's terrific. And that's, I'm reminded of the early days where there was a lot more questions, right, Jim, in terms of what we were doing. And, I think I appreciate Bill's support of all of this. And maybe just as I wrap up, Arlene, thank you for all the work that you've done in leading this. You make it look like it's easy, and this is really, really hard work. And I know that Tom mentioned that we're recruiting for your role, and you've just set such a deep foundation for us, and it's very much appreciated by all of us.
Thank you so much, Linda. But thanks to the team. There is a huge amount of work that goes on through the team. I just get to present all of their great work here.
Well, thanks for putting it as a priority. I think that when I hear these presentations, I'm reminded, because I was around when we were deciding, and so was Bill, on this corporation and having a seniors focus. And I think that having a seniors focus has really allowed us to focus on the right partnerships and for that tenant engagement. And so we have to continue to actually remind ourselves why we exist and continue this. So thank you very much. Any other comments or questions anyone wants to make?
Jim has his hand up.
Oh, thanks, Jim.
I just want to thank Arlene for all she's put into this. I know she says that it is a team, but every team needs a good quarterback, and you've been a great one. So thank you.
Thank you kindly, Jim.
Yeah, we're not letting her go yet, but just it was a really good report, so it's worth that. Any other comments? And I do apologize. For some reason, I'm not seeing hands on my screen today, so I'm appreciating the support that Karen has provided. All right. Well, so with that, I think that we have come to the end of a very full agenda with, I mean, it's easy for us to sit here for 2 hours and hear these presentations. I'm struck by the amount of work that actually goes into the presentations and the boots on the ground every day. So thank you for all that you've done. At this point, we're going to move to agenda 10, which is our adjournment. And I'm going to look for someone to move to adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks, Jim. And seconded, Fareed, I see you've come off mute, so thank you for seconded. All in favor? Terrific. And we will be bringing some of these items back to the board, and we will be reconvening in March for the next meeting of our committee. So thank you all, and enjoy the rest of February, and we'll talk again.
Thank you, Linda.
Hope you all have a
Thanks.
pleasant evening and
Thank
a
you.
great week ahead.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Linda. Great job.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for the help, Karen. I was having a
Yeah,
little trouble.
Karen. Awesome. Awesome.